Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for inviting me to this session today. It brings me really pleasure to share with you my vision and some of my works contributing to the post-carbon future. So the question, I always usually start my lecture with a question. Should we work and live outside Earth or inside Earth? So this is the question of today's session. Let me first introduce to you, sir and ladies and gentlemen, my design manifesto, which I have developed during the last 20 years. First principle is digging deep in the old knowledge and science accumulated through thousands of years to capture hidden values and intangible strengths of our human legacy. My second principle is developing those values and strengths using cutting-edge technologies to create an state and art design that carries the spirit of the past, not in the shape, form, but in existence. And of course, the last thing is documenting, publishing, and maybe presenting those experiments to deliver them to the future generation. I'll be presenting a set of projects. All of these projects are based on either existing technologies and or near future technologies. So we live here today. We have our biosphere that really carries us, enriches. It provides us with the nutrition, with the oxygen, with everything that we are blessed and living in this place. But if this place would be the same in the near future, so this is the most important and challenging question that we have to ask. And unfortunately, maybe our future grandsons and the future generations that will have to answer this question. So scientists had really divided the existential risks, the mass extinction level events that might threaten our race and human existence into 16 different divisions. So also scientists are predicting, excuse me, can I just, can you make mute? There's a lot of noise that really interrupts me. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. So the scientists predict that the growth rate of the carbon dioxide that will result is increasing by 5 degrees centigrade by the end of this century. So with this increase, that means that 95% of all our planet species will be wiped out. And this is a literal interpretation of our existential risk. This is only for the climate change, and just one reason is the CO2 growth level. Just 5 degrees centigrade again, and 95% of all our flora and fauna will be endangered and maybe will be terminated. And this, of course, will result in our termination as a race as well. So we have to act now. Let's switch again to space technologies. NASA and ESA and the different space agencies has developed a lot of technologies. These technologies are used for today's Earth living, not for the space. And these are just very small samples of what was really developed for space, but is used today for our life on Earth. With the same mindset, that was the key diagram that I really love and would like to present to you guys today is the International Space Station Life Support System. With a space architect mindset, you always have to think about securing your oxygen, your nutrition, your hydration of water, everything they can use, that could be used and utilized. And this is a 100% circular economy. It's a circular lifestyle. So this is on the space where you don't have any kind of resources, no oxygen, no water, even no gravity, no nutrition. So with the same mindset of these technologies, we can really enrich Earth. We can revive our resources again. We can really save what is lost. And now the time for design. These are a set of projects that maybe I will be presenting 3 or 4 of these projects, but I always like to present their icons. So let's first begin with my last project that was presented this last summer, just 2 months ago. It was awarded, by the way. All of the projects that will be presented today are internationally awarded projects. And it is merely something that I would like to also present. It is a research project. So these are not only architectural projects, there is an architectural design inside this project, but the other part is a science paper that is produced and presented to different conferences and journals. So Fina house, it is a kind of house. Fina in the Arabic language means the window or the courtyard. So it might be called also the courtyard, vertical courtyard house or the window house. This project is a minimalistic view, and actually it was inspired by design by Apple design code. There's a very interesting book that I started by reading. It's called Designed by Apple in California. This book really describes the design code and the minimalistic approach and how can you minimalize every kind of single detail in your design. But to reach this kind of simplicity, which were discussed and argued since the Renaissance era, even by Leonardo da Vinci, his famous and well-known quote, "Simplicity, the ultimate sophistication." To reach this level of simplicity and to reach this kind of minimalism, that doesn't mean that this is a really a simple design. That means that this is an ultra sophisticated design to reach this kind of minimalism. So this outer shell that is really simple and minimalistic, it carries inside it the most sophisticated design, engineering design that were developed using a lot of experts and teams, and maybe it costs a lot of time, money, and effort. And this is one of the lessons that we have learned from our industrial design. The same applies for this house. This house, as it seems, it is minimalistic, it is so simple, it doesn't carry really a lot of details as it is shown, but it was developed using this 50 design criteria. Literally, 50 design criteria were developed and tested inside this house and categorized into developing our legacy, social core values, environmental agenda, clean water, economic sustainability, energy agenda, food production, urban regeneration, static value, the physical and psychological well-being, flexibility, adaptability, zero waste, biodiversity. So these are the set of criteria that were developed, and then not only for this project, and it was developed during the last 20 years, but were applied, all of them, inside the latest project. So this is about strategic thinking. It is defined as a mental or thinking process applied by an individual in a context of achieving a goal, and that was the goal, to preserve Earth, to reverse the climate change, to decrease the levels of the CO2 and the carbon dioxide in our environment. And that started by studying the context. That is the context that I'm working on. This project were developed for this context. This context suffers from severe poverty, and the poverty, it is one of the United Nations sustainability goals that were one of the 17 SDGs that were admitted by United Nations. So it also has an economic and socio-economical agenda. And these are also part of the same context, but this is maybe the better part of this context. There is a distinctive vocabulary. The courtyards, you can find it obviously here. The pigeons or the birds tower that are used as an economic activity for breeding birds and using these birds as a source of food, and at the same time selling those birds. So it has an social and economical part. So this is the Egyptian village. So it has a poverty part, but also it is very distinctive and it has its own character that makes it unique. By gathering all of these problems, now it is the time for minimalism. And actually, minimalism, it is a new social trend. It's a new social lifestyle, which decreases the cluttering and decreases the noise and decreases all of the what makes you really, it clears your mind. So also by integrating all of those problems and all of those values with the new lifestyle of the minimalism, the new project was born. The project, even on its programmatic study, the architecture program, it was designed by space like number 4, which is a multi-use space. So it could be at the early morning used for breakfast, at the noon time it might be used as a workspace. You know, now we are more frequently working from home. After the COVID-19 lockdown, we have experienced new values that we didn't really realize that it could be done, but actually it succeeded. And maybe in the afternoon, it is turned into a living room. So it is a multi-use space, with having the space number 5, which is designed for storing all kind of different furniture inside it. You will find also there's a main courtyard, there's a wind catcher, and there is a lot of vocabulary that will be discussed later. Also, one distinctive part here is separating the structural system from the outer walls, creating double walls and creating double skin to decrease the radiation, the solar radiation, and hence, of course, help in cooling the inside of the home and eliminating the need for any kind of artificial air conditioning system. This is a diagram of the form finding or the form development process. It was just a very simple, cheap block. Of course, no curves, no nothing, just a very simple that could be even built by the society, the local ethnic society. It doesn't need high technology. It's a low technology kind of building. And by developing some of the piggins, towers that we have earlier mentioned, and having this vertical courtyard with a double skin, that resulted in our design. Also, another aesthetical value is having that appreciating what we have today, appreciating our nature, part of our earth heritage, our legacy. So by framing part of the nature and having this frame inside the house, it is part of the facade. It is part of our design to highlight Mother Earth, to highlight our nature, even if it is some of today, what we have today, our legacy. And now comes the law of synergy. The law of synergy states that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And that law was used and utilized inside the design. So this vertical cord that might seem that it is a simple vertical courtyard, but it will help in the passive cooling by enabling the wind to penetrate the urban mass. You know, we have a problem in today's architecture, even in the dense area, more probably in the dense area, which is called the mass urban heat or the urban heat. So by having a void inside the solid mass, that will enable the passage and the passing of the wind through this urban setting, so decreasing its degree and its temperature. Also, it allows and it embraces the biodiversity. It welcomes any kind of creature that might really be passing. And of course, that will result in a biophilic design by adding more of the green elements. And, you know, with each house, you will have to plant a new tree. So that neutralizes the carbon budget. With each building that is built sustainably, you have to also plant a tree as part of this design. So the tree is considered one of the vocabulary of the architectural house that is newly done. And at the early mornings, you have curtains that could be closed, so it acts as a fog nets, also contributing in collecting and harnessing some of the wasted water that is wasted each morning in this particular part of our earth. You know, there are some parts, even the fog nets is a low technology. It is used in many places in Africa, in Warkatri, maybe in Ethiopia, also in South America. It is used by the low tech communities with a high poverty rate, but it is a very low cost and cheap and effective at the same time solution for harnessing clean water that it is just water from the atmosphere. So that courtyard exceeds only its capabilities as a vertical courtyard. This is a schematic conceptual diagram of, and merely the quick calculations had resulted in 25 gallons of pure water per day inside your house that could be utilized in drinking, in planting and watering the plants, or even in cleaning process. Of course, the individualism and the cultural diversity in different parts of this regions of Egypt, we have to respect that the people will not maybe intervening in the offered design. So I have offered solutions in the Nubian kingdom or the Nubian societies in the modernized world in north of Egypt and even in the Sahara Desert, in the Western African desert, where they used to build with some kind of with a mixture composite with the salt and the sand of the local area of the oasis called Siwa. So these are solutions that doesn't really affect the quality of the design, but merely it adds an added value. Let's now break down and compose the Piggins Tower, which is called the food production unit. It is composed of three main elements. It is a development of the old Piggins Tower with a hydroponics unit, which will help in increasing the green and the planting and, of course, the food, maybe like 31 to 32% of the food production of the needs of this family will be secured by the hydroponics inside it, and a stairs. It's a vertical circulation element. And the last one that was not really here mentioned, but there is a water rainwater catcher here, which also gathers much of the dew and the rain at the same time and filters it and reproduce it also to be used to plant and water the hydroponics unit with a system called the aeroponics, which is like 99% we are saving water and just it is a very effective way to plant trees and use the water inside it. And now comes technology. To be sure that this house will be effectively working as it is designed and as it is desired, so simulation software were used to measure the degree of the radiation and the lighting, the diffused lighting inside the spaces. So also eliminating the need to use any electrical lamps. So at least you have from 8 up to 12 hours or maybe 10 hours of daylight that will be entering the interior spaces, and you will only need the LED or the low cost also low electricity LEDs just at the noon, at the afternoon and the evening time. And that was based on a region called Fayoum. Of course, these data were input inside the software, and that is the resulting simulation. Also, there is a wind catcher at the same tower. This wind catcher will be circulating a clean and cool air. So it also will decrease the need and eliminate the need for any kind of air conditioning system. So it is a multi-use architectural vocabulary that is used for food production, for water gathering, for cooling, and for the lighting reflection. And that is the post-carbon architecture in my point of view, the kind of architecture that can use all the planet's resources, the renewable resources, without any waste, without any emissions of the carbon dioxide. This is the conceptual basic design that is not patent yet, but it is in the process of registering and documenting as patent for filtering the gathered water inside a vertical pipe that will be. And that leads us to the logical reasoning. Also, the logical reasoning is important. It is the ability to candidate or to understand a logical work through concepts and problem expressed in the form of images, i.e. the art part, the legacy, our human part, which we cannot also deny. It is the house is not only a machine for building. It is a living organism that have to respond to our feeling, to our aspirations, to what we can see in the future. And responding to that agenda, some of the famous crafts of this area is the pop art. The pop art that is represented through the carpets, the rugs, even on the wall murals. It was analyzed, and the color palette composed of these four main colors were used as the lightscape at the night time. So it gives us our lightscape study, or a very nice painting of abstract kind of the pop art that really adds a new dimensions, reminding the people of their roots, their legacy, their art that originated maybe hundreds and thousands of years ago, but in a contemporary dress. And another engineering principle that was also used was the composability in design. It is a system design principle that provides components that can be selected and assembled in various combinations, which leads us to the flexibility in design. Flexibility in design is so much important in this poverty scenarios. It is important to satisfy the specific user requirements and responding to different urban scenarios, which means that this kind of design should respond to all kind of extension. Either it is a vertical or horizontal kind of expansion, even offering solutions for a big family composed of 5 families, the grand family that could be all gathered in just one set, or just a newly married couple that could be taking one of these units and enabling them to expand vertically or horizontally. All scenarios are possible. And we do understand that there is a lot of urban scenarios that is different. So to create something that is a site specific, we need to offer also solutions. Will make their own solutions, which might not be well studied as an architect can really study it and offer it ready for these people. And the scientific thinking also is important part of shaping and reformulating this kind of design. So even after the project is finished and it was delivered as as an award and it received its award, that doesn't mean that the project cycle is ended as a design. Also, it is important to complete. So some of the projects that is presented today, it lasts for 10 years, maybe 11 years, and maybe more. This is because it is a developed kind of house. So there's generation of this design. So this is the last generation line of a line of houses that I'm presenting today. And also it will be in the future, this design will be the laying foundation for another designs to come. Also here using the latest CFD or computational fluid dynamics also to study the pressure and the wind behavior responding to this kind of form. Maybe it needs a little bigger window. Maybe it needs a little bit wider double skin values. So it is important to test it and study it so we can respond to the future development. These are just diagrams of the wind simulation done in various, and it takes really a lot of effort and powerful computers to do this kind of simulation, but it is crucial and important in order to develop it and present it to our future generation. This is the legacy that we will be leaving for our grandsons and children. The first project is ended. I would gladly present very briefly uh, the second house. We can say in a funny way that the last house, the white minimal house, is the son of this house. So this house, Baitus Suhaimi, the one that I'll be presenting, it was the father, it was the grandfather of all of this research line that I am presenting today. It started in 2011, just 10 years ago, and it is still a work in progress. It is a never-ending kind of project because it is a scientifically and architecturally project. So that is Beit Sahimi that was first designed in 2011. By the way, it was awarded 3 times in the Met COP 21 in Marseille, in Paris. It was awarded. It was awarded again with the first award in MedCop, not the MedCop, sorry, the Medibat, the scientific forum in Tunisia in Sfax in 2000, I think, and 12, and in Hassan Fathi Award in Egypt in 2011. So it was awarded. It's awarded mainly 3 times. This project was published in 5 different languages, by the way, as well. This project is a new approach. It is a redesigning, and the funny part here, the very funny story for this project, that this project is exactly the same project that was designed 500 years ago. So 500 years ago, in the medieval era, in the old ancient Egyptian capital Cairo, there was someone called Al-Suhaimi. He was the prime minister. He was the biggest and the largest minister of trade at that time. And that guy uh, built his own house. It was called Beit Sahimi, but it was built in the 1500, in the 16th century or the 15th century, as I do remember. And that is the original Beit Sahimi. Of course, today it is open for tourists, so you can see a house that is aged 500 years ago. But the really interesting part that after studying this house through my PhD and through some scientific research, I have just extracted all of the values, the social, the economical, the environmental agenda values, and all of the values that is designed in this house, and gathered all of those values inside. Of course, this is also a study in the interior spaces. Even there is a virtual reality to understand and to live in this house maybe days and to test the user experience even of this house. All of those values were interpreted in this building, but using today's technology, using today's concepts, using today's ideas, the zero carbon, the zero energy, the extreme sustainability, the water generation, and the positive energy conduction. So all of these technologies, so it is something like a blend, something between the past and the modern day. Of course, there is a visual reading of the architecture program from the facade, but also having a privacy preserved by having all of the bedrooms at the inner part, and at the outer part, it is much more like not the public part, but the family living areas, and having all kind of screens that can reflect all of the sunlight inside without the direct sunlight, only having the diffused sunlight. So decreasing the need for the air conditioning system, but enabling the natural daylight to enter the spaces, and at the same time also eliminating the need for any kind of lamps. Also, it is about creating social spaces for the intergenerational interaction. So, three generations of the same family can live in this house by having a very well studied interior spaces to fulfill the grandfather and the father and the son. Three generations could live in three different stories at that house. Also, it can absorb any kind of new needs. So, there are intentionally left spaces for new rooms that could be added in the future so it can fulfill the expanding needs of the same family. Visual connectivity is established through open plains and terraces. Louvers mimicking the old mashrabaya. It is a very ancient and old vocabulary that is were used in the ancient Egyptian architecture in the Islamic era, exactly. And this was the top technology at that time. So it's also developed. It needs to be studied and developed. And you can find here even glimpses of the food production unit at the top roof of the building. This is not an hydroponic. This is a 10 years ago. It was maybe before the emergence of this concept and normalizing this concept of the hydroponics. So it is a roof garden, but it's a roof garden of the vegetables and fruits that could provide the family with about quarter of its needs of the production with a clean, chemical-free kind of vegetables. Of course, the dispersed masses will allow air to pass through. So this particular room, for example, it will be having the wind from above and from below. So it is during the whole day it will be cooled. So we do believe that there is no need for any kind of air conditioning system, and this is a kind of luxury, modern, contemporary lifestyle. Also, we are having the inner court, which is equipped with a water pool. So it helps also in the passive cooling. So the wind that was discussed in the last slide will be having intercepted by this kind of water vapor. So water vapor and wind will result in passive cooling for the whole building. Also, the double skin here were equipped. Double skin walls on a roof with a big cover to maximize the shades and the shadows. So here is a very interesting part of the architecture. We are not only designing form or designing a plan, we are designing shades, we are designing the shadows. So the shades and the shadows are part of one of the design criteria that were taken into consideration while developing this house. And upon the initial calculations, it needed 39 photovoltaic cells or photovoltaic sheet to generate about 10 kilo daily consumption of a family members house. Of course, this is designed in another different part from the last house. So the last house needed only 35 solar panel, but this one needs 39 solar panel. It differs from a region to other. And science should come at the end. Also, the CFD or the computational fluid dynamics, but this is another maybe primitive software because this was a software that was 10 years ago. That was the available technology at that time. But it conducted also and it succeeded in all tests. So you can find here there is a high maximum velocity of the wind, but this is a closed part. So how is the wind here with a very high velocity inside a closed courtyard? This is because you will find that the wind, even if it goes from the below, from the ground level, but it will pass by and come out from the first level. So it will be passing through 2 stories. And this is the wind rose of the region that was designed, of course, part of the studies. And the 3 floors were tested to ensure that there will be a flowing air breeze all during the year. Also, the interior sun radiation or the indirect sunlight, the useful sunlight, we call it the useful sunlight. This is a study of the courtyard. The courtyard will have like 1 hour of exposed high radiation sun, but most of the day will be illuminated without having this kind of high heat or high radiation sunlight. Well, this experiment resulted in other experiments even beyond our African and Middle East continent in Arizona, in the United States. So also that was approved and it was awarded. The same design principle were used in Arizona house. We're having a double facade kind of houses with an outer and inner. And of course, this is a mansion. It is not a small house family member. It's a great mansion with multi-rooms. And you can find easily that the number of the solar panels were much bigger than ever. But also you can find a lot of wind catchers, wind towers. This is number 1. This is number 2. Number 3. three different wind towers that were utilized on all of the spaces. And you can also find for the cold winter nights a biogas kind of reactor that might provide heat, and at the same time some of the fuel that will be used for heating at the winter nights. Now, let's switch on future vision, future houses. And let me just make a small comment. All of the future kind of architecture that will be presented today are built upon existing technology. So this is not a science fiction, it is a science reality. The playhouse with a house that were designed for Germany to be put in the German context. It is a house. This is not a glass, by the way, and I usually would like to have this comment. This is a transparent aluminum. It is a composed material called the aluminum oxynitride. This kind of materials does exist, but the main problem for our today's invention that it is so costly. So 1 meter square costs about $20,000. It might not be very feasible for today's architecture, but we do believe that in the few next years, about 10 to 15 maximum next year, it will be available material with a available budget for anyone that would like to use. So this kind of skin is totally recyclable. This is some kind of an aluminum. So you can recycle this aluminum after the life cycle of the building. And it is a highly durable kind. This is a metal building, but metal with a very low conductivity. So it will not be transferring heat, but it will be capturing the light, and it will be capturing the natural views of this context. So actually you are living inside the forest. You are living inside nature with a 100% totally secure and safe kind of house. And another research that I worked on, not worked on, I used from the MIT, is having the transparent kind of dots. This transparent dotted roof is the new generation of the solar panels. So also this is another zero energy houses. Also you can find here this 10 pieces of sails. These sails moved by the wind is also generating energy, because you know in the German context you cannot only depend on the solar panels, we need also the wind kind of power to generate energy. So by using something called the piezoelectric effect, also it generates energy. You can find also here that it could be gathering much of the rainwater that will be used and utilized for the farm. There's two kind of farms here, one an indoor farm and another outdoor farm with a robot arm that will be using precision farming. So this house could be really functioning and working even without any kind of residents living inside this house or operating this kind of house. Also, there's a very interesting part that these are the bedrooms. The green, it's all color coded. The entrance is in red, just to alert people. This was, by the way, a post COVID-19 kind of retreat. So it was a house that you can really escape, and you cannot really feel that you are locked down because you are living literally inside nature. It is a transparent kind of house, but to have at the other hand total privacy for the bedrooms. So the bedrooms are mobile kind of houses. So you can push your room to put it in whatever view that you would like to use. Even the workspace, the blue color coded kind of space, it's the workspace. So you can also work with having an open view from the both sides. Even the dining area with the kitchen, it is the yellow one. And lastly, the bathroom, which is used with a black sphere and with the nanomaterials, much used for the spacecraft industry to have a clean and sanitized kind of spaces. By the way, the entrance also is equipped with the sanitizers that make like a shower, a quick shower on the anyone who's entering the house, to make sure that he will be entering virus free as possible. This is the transparent aluminum. These are real samples that were designed, and that was the samples that were studied. This is the development process of the house, how it will be opened. By the way, these are lighting lines also. Very low cost electrical consumption budget. Also, we do believe that this is a zero energy house that will not only be zero energy, but could produce energy that exceeds its needs for the surrounding areas. Also, to eliminate the need for people to go outside and consume, it is also equipped by drones. So this house is a smart kind of houses. It's an intelligent kind of house. So also it will be using a robot arm for the maintenance and for the cultivation and for the farming, and using all kind of drones for the weather prediction and for any kind of requirements that need to be bought from the near supermarkets or from the pharmacies or whatever that you'd like to need. You can just send your drone, so you don't need to go yourself, saving human lives. Switching from residential to public buildings, was a mosque that was designed for Dubai. It is a 2018 competition. Without entering and without discussing a lot of details about this mosque, but the interesting part here that we used also a zero energy approach in this guide, and at the same time, it also reflects the degree of faith of the worshippers, the people that will be worshipping inside this mosque. So all of the ground floor is designed by the piezoelectric effect. Once you just pass or press with your feet on this floor, it generates energy. So the more worshippers that will be entering this temple, the more energy that will be conducting, and hence more lighting these trees will be lit. So the more worshippers and the more people that will be entering this temple, the more light, and that reflects the degree of faith in this society, and at the same time, without using any extra energy. So people will be encouraged. People will be inviting each other. Please come to this temple so we can all help in increasing the energy rate inside this building and lighting those trees. And the last project for today is Guggenheim, the clouds. It is a project that was done in Helsinki, in Finland, in 2014. It is also another project that utilizes the nanocarbon technology in the carbon tubes. This is the tubular multi-layer kind of compression columns that were designed to elevate all of this massive mass. This massive mass, of course, is designed with the same idea of the clouds, so it can make a free footprint for the land, and it is a principle that we have learned years ago from Le Corbusier, the father of the modern architecture. When he first designed his architecture, raised and elevated on columns to make a ground level that or ground plane that is free from many activities or multi-activities. And at the same time, it will also make, or it will enable the visual connectivity between the ancient and the classical buildings of this harbor. So also, this is another part in response to our environmental agenda. We would really, soil is also part of the resources of this planet that we would like to save. If we can make a building above in the clouds or elevate it above, that will be a privilege for us. Thank you for having this presentation. Till now, June 2021, this is the map of the awards that were received in this line of research on architecture. I might say that I'm a science tech. I'm a scientist and an architect. I don't have really clients that would charge me, but I'm presenting to awards and turning those awards into a scientific research that could be presented in journals and in conferences later on. I am working into having an original contribution of architecture to our today's modern architecture. I'm responding to the threats that might threat our existence, the existential risks. These are the exhibition map that I have contributed also all around the world in 5 different continents. And the workshops, it is a very crucial and important part of my journey. I'm not only presenting project, but I'm also training the future generations as a professor of architecture. It is very important to make the future generation understand what is sustainability, what is the future of our planet, how can we respond. It's our responsibility as an architects to respond to the future of our generation and save them. These are part of the establishment and institutes that I was honored to publish some of my works in Discovery Channel, Forbes, Middle East, L'Architecture d'aujourd'hui, Arch Daily, Design Boom, Alexandria, Library of Alexandria, L'Arca International, and of course, NASA Johnson Space Center, that was in 2019. It is a journey that never ended, and I think I do believe that it will be extending for the rest of my life. And even in TEDx, that was NASA Johnson Space Center, Wired Magazine. And lastly, this is part of the research that I didn't present. I only presented the architecture, but I did think that it is important also to present part of the how this project is turned into scientific papers, so it could last forever for anyone who would like to really learn and share and maybe develop my work even after I leave this world. My work will stay for the future generations so they can work upon and develop. Last slide, I would like to end with: the future belongs to those who dare to dream. But there is another great woman, Eleanor Roosevelt, who also extended this concept that the future also belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. And last one was Malcolm X, who mentioned that the future also belongs to those who prepare for it today. So my message today is dream and believe in your dreams and start working, and you will see this dream come true. If it is not in your lifetime, it will be even after passing away for the future generations. Thank you for your kind attention. It was my pleasure to meet you all today. Thank you for Cedric's and for the organizing team for having me today. I hope that I have delivered my message, the work of my lifetime, and I am also welcoming anyone who would like to contact me. These are my social media and my channel on YouTube. So you are welcome to send me whenever and wherever you would like to. Thank you so much.